Welcome to this session on ratio proportion. This is the first session on ratio proportion. Now, you might be aware that ratio proportion is a very important topic, and you will see applications of ratio proportion in other topics of arithmetic like time and work, time and distance, mixture allegations, and so on. So, a thorough understanding of ratio proportion is a must. In fact, apart from percentages, this is the second pillar on which arithmetic really stands on. So what is a ratio? Ratio is nothing but a comparison of two quantities of the same kind. Like the ratio of boys to girls in a class is 4 is to 5. Now, same kind means these are people, right? I cannot have a ratio between number of apples and number of oranges because they are not fruits of the same kind. So you are comparing two quantities which are similar in some respect, and we can take ratio only of such quantities. And what does this ratio 4 is to 5 means? It means that for every 4 boys there are 5 girls. Now there is another interpretation. 4 is to 5 also implies that number of boys is some multiple of 4. We call it 4x. And number of girls is some multiple of 5. We call it 5x. तो 4 का कोई मल्टीपल होगा नंबर ऑफ बॉयज और 5 का मल्टीपल होगा नंबर ऑफ गर्ल्स. तो नंबर ऑफ बॉयज कुछ भी हो सकता है. 4 into 1 4, 4 into 2 8, 4 into 3 12, 4 into 4 16 एंड सो ऑन. तो इसको जनरलाइज करने के लिए मैंने 4x लिख दिया. और 5x 5 के टेबल पे आने वाला कोई भी दूसरा नंबर हो सकता है. 5 10 15 एंड सो ऑन. So instead of writing it as 5 into 1, 5 into 2, 5 into 3, I write it as 5 into x. So essentially what it means is 4 is to 5 means number of boys is a multiple of 4, number of girls is a multiple of 5. Another interpretation of ratio is if A represents the height of person A and B represents the height of person B, then the ratio of 4 to 5 means person's A's height is 4 upon 5 times the height of person B. This is another interpretation. So why? Because A's height is automatically a multiple of 4, 4, 8, 12 and so on, and B's height is automatically a multiple of 5, 5, 10, 15, and you can just take ratio between any of these two numbers. So you can see that A's height is 4 by 5 times B's height, or 8 by 10 times B's height. 8 by 10 can be reduced to 4 by 5 only. Okay. So essentially what we are trying to tell is, now let me give you another interpretation which depends on this. Suppose I have milk and water in the ratio of 4 is to 5. Suppose. So obviously the quantity of milk is some multiple of 4. Let us call it 4x. The quantity of water is some multiple of 5. Let us call it 5x. So the total quantity becomes 9x. This is your total quantity, 9x. Of this 9x, what part is milk? 4 upon 4 plus 5, that is 9. So 4 by 9th part of the whole is milk, and 5 upon 4 plus 5, that is 5 by 9th part is water. So this is another interpretation. So please make sure that you understand each one of these interpretations very well, because we will need different interpretations at different points of time depending on the data presented in the question. Let's move on from here. Proportion. What is a proportion? When two ratios are equal, we say they are in proportion. Like A as to B is equal to C as to D. So here we say that A, B, C, D are in A, B, C, D are in proportion. So A upon B is equal to C upon D. So we say the equality of two ratios is a proportion. A and D are called extremes. A and D are called extremes, and B and C are called means. And we can see that product of extremes is equal to product of means. So in other word, if a ratio is represented like A is to B as to C is to D, then product of extremes and product of means, both of them must be equal. So product of means is equal to product of extremes. Let's move on. What is a compound ratio? A compound ratio is nothing but multiplying two different ratios. So if you multiply two ratios, you get a compound ratio. So how do you multiply two ratios? So you multiply the two ratios by multiplying the numerators and the denominators of the two ratios. For example, suppose the speed of two vehicles, vehicle 1 and vehicle 2, suppose the speed is in the ratio of 5:6, the ratio of speed, and the time for which the two vehicles are traveling is in the ratio of 7:8. Now we want to know the ratio of distances traveled by the two vehicles. मतलब इन दोनों vehicles ने कितना distance travel किया, उसका ratio मुझे चाहिए. अब distance का मतलब क्या होता है? Speed into time. Speed into time. तो यहाँ पे ये रेशियो 5/6 हो जाएगा और ये रेशियो 7/8 हो जाएगा. तो इन दोनों रेशियो के प्रोडक्ट से मुझे क्या मिलेगा? मुझे डिस्टेंस का रेशियो मिलेगा. क्यों? क्योंकि 5 into 7 जो यहाँ न्यूमरेटर में दिख रहा है वो स्पीड इनटू टाइम पहले व्हीकल का है, और 6 into 8 जो मुझे यहाँ पे दिख रहा है, इट इज़ नथिंग बट स्पीड एंड टाइम फॉर द सेकेंड व्हीकल. एंड व्हाट डू यू गेट? 35:48. तो आप या तो ऐसे कर लो या इस तरह से मल्टीप्लाई कर लो, 5/6 into 7/8. आंसर सेम आने वाला है. तो अल्टीमेटली कंपाउंड रेशियो निकालने के लिए मुझे दो सिंपल रेशियोज का प्रोडक्ट लेना पड़ता है. आई होप द मीनिंग ऑफ कंपाउंड रेशियो इज क्लियर. एंटीसीडेंट एंड कॉन्सिक्वेंस इज नथिंग बट अनदर टर्म फॉर न्यूमरेटर एंड डिनोमिनेटर. ठीक है? एंटीसीडेंट मतलब न्यूमरेटर, कॉन्सिक्वेंट मतलब डिनोमिनेटर. तो हमने क्या किया यहाँ पे? दोनों न्यूमरेटर्स का प्रोडक्ट ले लिया तो हमें 35 मिला. तो 35 इज द एंटीसीडेंट और द न्यूमरेटर ऑफ द कंपाउंड रेशियो, एंड 48 इज द डिनोमिनेटर ऑफ द कंपाउंड रेशियो, विच इज नथिंग बट 6/8. तो दोनों के न्यूमरेटर का प्रोडक्ट ले लो और डिनोमिनेटर का प्रोडक्ट ले लो तो आपको कंपाउंड रेशियो का भी न्यूमरेटर और डिनोमिनेटर मिल जाता है. So if you have two ratios A is to B and C is to D, then their compound ratio will be, अब यहाँ पे न्यूमरेटर क्या है? A और C, तो A into C किया. देखो इसको आप प्रपोर्शन से इक्वेट मत करना. दिस इज नॉट प्रपोर्शन, करेक्ट? दीज आर टू डिफरेंट रेशियोज, दे आर नॉट इक्वल. ये दोनों इक्वल नहीं है. जब इक्वल होते हैं तो हम उनको प्रपोर्शन कहते हैं. यू नो, व्हेन द टू रेशियोज आर इक्वल वी कॉल देम proportion. So here in this particular case we get A upon B into C upon D, which is nothing but AC upon BD, right? देखो यहाँ पे भी हमने वही किया. So 2:3 into 4:5, तो यहाँ पे क्या करेंगे हम? 2/3 into 4/5, which is 8/15. यही आएगा आंसर. ये 2 into 4 होना चाहिए और ये 3 into 5 होना चाहिए यहाँ पे. I hope this part is clear to you all. Next, price ratio. So P1 is to P2 is the price, where P1 is the price of first item and P2 is the price of the second item. Quantity ratio is Q1 is to Q2. देन एक्सपेंस का रेशियो. एक्सपेंस क्या होता है? प्राइस इंटू क्वांटिटी होता है. तो पहले की प्राइस इंटू पहले की क्वांटिटी, दूसरे की प्राइस इंटू दूसरे की क्वांटिटी. दिस बिकम्स योर एक्सपेंस रेशियो. एक्सपेंस 1 एज टू एक्सपेंस 2. सो कंपाउंड रेशियो एसेंशियली इज नथिंग बट प्रोडक्ट ऑफ टू और मोर रेशियोज. व्हाट इज अ डुप्लीकेट रेशियो? डुप्लीकेट रेशियो इज नथिंग बट द स्क्वायर ऑफ द ओरिजिनल रेशियो. अगर ओरिजिनल रेशियो A is to B है तो इसका डुप्लीकेट रेशियो क्या होगा? A² upon B². इफ द ओरिजिनल रेशियो इज 2:3, तो इसका डुप्लीकेट रेशियो क्या हो जाएगा? 2 स्क्वायर एस टू 3 स्क्वायर, 4:9. ट्रिप्लीकेट रेशियो मतलब अगर ओरिजिनल रेशियो ए इज टू बी है तो ट्रिप्लीकेट रेशियो ए क्यूब एस टू बी क्यूब होगा. अगर ओरिजिनल रेशियो 2:3 है तो ट्रिप्लीकेट रेशियो क्या हो जाएगा? 2 क्यूब एस टू 3 क्यूब, दैट इज 8:27. इसका थ्योरेटिकल इंपॉर्टेंस ज़्यादा है, टर्मिनोलॉजी बस पता होनी चाहिए. बाकी आई डोंट सी एनी ऑफ दिस टर्मिनोलॉजी अपियरिंग एनीवेयर. और इसके साथ साथ सब डुप्लीकेट और सब ट्रिप्लीकेट भी आता है. सब डुप्लीकेट मतलब क्या? स्क्वायर रूट ऑफ ए एस टू स्क्वायर रूट ऑफ बी. सब ट्रिप्लीकेट मतलब क्या? क्यूब रूट ऑफ ए एस टू क्यूब रूट ऑफ बी. तो डुप्लीकेट रेशियो इज ए स्क्वायर एस टू बी स्क्वायर, सब डुप्लीकेट इज रूट ए एस टू रूट बी. ट्रिप्लीकेट रेशियो a cube is to b cube, sub triplicate is cube root of a is to cube root of b. Now let us solve a couple of very basic questions. If the ratio of sugar to flour in a recipe is 2:3 and you use 6 cups of sugar, तो शुगर और फ्लावर का रेशियो कितना है? 2:3. and you use 6 cups of sugar, how many cups of flour should you use? अब देखो 2:3 का मैंने मतलब क्या बताया था कि शुगर की क्वांटिटी जो है वो 2 का मल्टीपल होगा 2x, एंड द क्वांटिटी ऑफ फ्लावर इज सम मल्टीपल ऑफ 3x. But we are given that sugar that we have used is 6 cups. So this 2x has a value 6. So x is equal to 3. Now just substitute this 3 over here. So 3 into 3 is equal to 9. This is how you solve such an elementary question. Now you can also solve this by saying that if sugar and flour is in the ratio of 2:3, it means sugar is 2 by 5. Why 5? 2 plus 3. So 2 by 5 parts of the whole. Correct? So let us say the whole quantity is W. So 2 by 5 parts of W is 6, because the quantity of sugar is given to be 6. So what is the value of W? 2 3s are 6, and you get the whole as 15. Now if whole is 15, that means sugar plus flour, the quantity is 15, and sugar is 6. What will be the quantity of flour? 9, the same answer. So you need to understand both these interpretations and both these methods of calculating values in ratio. Next, ratio of boys to girls in a school is 5:4, and there are 200 students in all. How many boys are there? Okay. So, okay, now you can't have 200 students. I'm just modifying this number to some other number. Let's say 270 students in total. Okay. So suppose the number of students is 270 and the ratio of boys is to girls is 5:4. It means that number of boys is a multiple of 5. Number of girls is a multiple of 4. Total 5 plus 4, 9x. And what is the total number of students given to be? 9x is given to be 270. So x must be 30. Now, since we are required to calculate boys and girls, boys is 5x, so 5 into 30, that is 150, and girls is 4x, so 4 into 30, that is 120. This is how you can calculate the number of boys and the number of girls. I could have also solved by saying that number of boys is 5 by 9, 5 by 5 plus 4, 5 by 9th part of the total, and got the value of number of boys directly. Similarly, since the ratio is 5:4, boys as to girls, girls are 4 by 9 of 270. So number of girls will be 120. Next, the ratio of boys and girls in the class is 3:2, and if there are 15 boys, how many girls are there? Okay. So ratio of boys is to girls is 3:2. So number of boys must be some multiple of 3, so 3x. Number of girls will be some multiple of 2, that is 2x. We know that boys are 15. So 3x is equal to 15, so x must be equal to 5. What about number of girls? 2x. So 2 into 5, that is 10. This is another way of solving. I could also have said that 3 number of boys is 3/5 of the total that is given to be 15. So total is 25. What about number of girls? 2/5 of the total. 5 5s are 25. 5 2s are 10. So number of girls in this case is 10. What does 2:5 mean in terms of heights of two people? It means that height of the first person, let us call him A, is a multiple of 2, and height of the second person, let us call him B, is some multiple of 5. Next. Oh, that's all. So with this we come to an end of the first session on ratio. Thank you very much.